It was a warm summer evening when the three brothers, Michael, Tom, and Dan, found themselves walking home from school. They were as close as brothers could be, sharing everything from secrets to dreams. As they strolled along, chatting and laughing, their path led them past an old, abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. The factory had always been a source of fascination and fear for the boys. Its dilapidated walls loomed ominously against the setting sun, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch out and swallow everything in their path. As they passed by, a strange sight caught their attention: a weathered ice cream truck parked by the side of the road, its faded paint and rusted edges standing out against the backdrop of the factory. An old man sat behind the wheel, his face obscured by shadows as he waved them over with a crooked finger. Curiosity piqued. The brothers approached the truck cautiously, unsure of what to expect. The old man's smile widened as they drew near, revealing a mouthful of yellowed teeth that sent a shiver down their spines. "Hello, boys," he rasped, his voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "Would you like some ice cream?" The offer seemed innocent enough, but there was something unsettling about the way the old man looked at them, his eyes gleaming with an intensity that sent a chill down their spines. Before they could respond, the old man leaned in close, his breath reeking of stale tobacco and decay. "I have something special for you," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the approaching evening. Intrigued despite themselves, the brothers leaned in closer, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. What could the old man possibly have to offer them, and why did it feel like they were being drawn into some kind of twisted game? With a sly grin, the old man beckoned them even closer, his eyes twinkling with malice. "I know a place where you can find all the ice cream you could ever want," he murmured, his voice dripping with sinister promise. "But you'll have to come with me if you want to know more." The invitation hung in the air like a dark cloud, tempting and terrifying in equal measure. The brothers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of what to do next. Should they follow the old man and risk whatever dangers lay ahead, or should they turn and run before it was too late? But before they could make up their minds, the old man leaned back in his seat, his grin widening into a toothy smile. "Think it over, boys," he said, his voice echoing in their ears like a sinister refrain. "I'll be waiting." With that, he started up the engine of the ice cream truck, the sound of its rumbling motor fading into the distance as he drove away into the gathering darkness. Left alone on the side of the road, the brothers stared after him, their minds whirling with questions and uncertainty. What was the old man's game, and what did he mean by his cryptic offer? And more importantly, should they dare to find out? As they stood there, bathed in the dying light of the setting sun, they knew that their decision would shape the course of their destiny in ways they could never have imagined. The old man's whispered invitation lingered in their minds like a haunting melody, tempting them with the promise of adventure and excitement. Despite their initial unease, the brothers found themselves drawn to the idea of exploring the mysterious world that lay beyond the walls of the abandoned factory. For days, they debated the old man's offer, weighing the risks and rewards of accepting his invitation. On one hand, they knew that venturing into the unknown could lead them into danger, but on the other hand, the prospect of uncovering the secrets of the factory filled them with a sense of excitement they couldn't ignore. As they discussed their options late into the night, their imaginations ran wild with possibilities. What wonders lay hidden within the factory's crumbling walls? What mysteries awaited them in the shadows of its abandoned corridors? But amidst their excitement, a nagging sense of doubt lingered in the back of their minds. What if the old man's offer was too good to be true? What if there was a darker purpose behind his seemingly innocent invitation? Despite their reservations, the brothers couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of a great adventure, one that would test their courage and resilience in ways they had never imagined. Finally, after much deliberation, they made their decision. With a sense of determination burning in their hearts, they resolved to accept the old man's offer and explore the secrets of the abandoned factory once and for all. As they set out on their journey, their minds buzzed with excitement, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They knew that they were venturing into the unknown, but they also knew that together they could overcome any obstacle that stood in their way. With each step they took towards the abandoned factory, their sense of adventure grew stronger, propelling them forward into the darkness with a newfound sense of purpose and resolve. Little did they know, their decision to accept the old man's invitation would set them on a path that would change their lives forever, leading them into a world of mystery, danger, and unimaginable terror. As the brothers approached the looming silhouette of the abandoned factory, a sense of foreboding washed over them like a cold wave crashing against the shore. The air was thick with tension as they stood before the rusted gates, their hearts pounding in their chests. With a silent nod of agreement, they pushed open the gates and stepped into the darkness beyond, their footsteps echoing against the cold concrete floor. The factory loomed before them like a giant beast, its shadowy corridors stretching out into the unknown. Despite their trepidation, the brothers pressed on, their eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of danger. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind made them jump, their nerves on edge as they navigated the maze-like corridors of the abandoned factory. With each passing moment, their sense of unease grew stronger, fueled by the eerie silence that enveloped them like a suffocating blanket. It was as if the factory itself was holding its breath, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But still, they pressed on, driven by a determination to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within its walls. With each step they took, they drew closer to the heart of the factory, their senses heightened as they searched for any clue that might lead them to the truth. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the darkness, a faint whisper, barely audible above the hum of the machinery. The brothers froze in their tracks, their hearts pounding in their chests as they strained to listen. "Did you hear that?" Dan whispered, his voice barely above a breath. The others nodded, their eyes wide with fear as they scanned the shadows for any sign of movement. With a silent agreement, they pressed on, following the sound of the whisper deeper into the heart of the factory. Their footsteps echoed against the cold concrete floor, each step bringing them closer to the truth. But as they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a sight that sent a chill down their spines, a figure standing in the darkness, its eyes gleaming with malevolence as it stared back at them with an intensity that made their blood run cold. With a cry of fear, they turned and ran, their hearts pounding in their chest as they fled deeper into the darkness, their only thought to escape the horrors that lurked within the abandoned factory. Little did they know, their journey into the heart of darkness was only just beginning, and the true horrors that awaited them were beyond anything they could have ever imagined. As they ran through the labyrinthine corridors of the abandoned factory, fear gripped the brothers like a vice, squeezing the air from their lungs and clouding their minds with panic. Every shadow seemed to hide a new horror, every sound sending shivers down their spines as they fled deeper into the darkness. With each passing moment, their sense of unease grew stronger, fueled by the knowledge that they were not alone in the factory. Somewhere in the darkness, something was watching them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But still, they pressed on, their footsteps echoing against the cold concrete floor as they searched for a way out of the maze of corridors. With each turn they took, their sense of desperation grew stronger, the darkness pressing in on them from all sides like a suffocating blanket. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a stairwell leading down into the depths of the factory, a gaping maw in the darkness, beckoning them into the unknown. With no other options left, they descended into the abyss, their hearts pounding in their chests as they ventured deeper into the heart of darkness. As they descended further into the depths of the factory, the air grew colder, the darkness thicker, until it felt as though they were descending into the bowels of hell itself. But still, they pressed on, their determination unwavering in the face of unimaginable terror. Suddenly, they heard a noise, a faint scraping sound, barely audible above the hum of the machinery. With a sense of dread, they realized that they were not alone in the darkness, that something was lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce. With no time to lose, they quickened their pace, their footsteps echoing against the cold concrete floor as they raced deeper into the darkness. But no matter how fast they ran, the darkness seemed to swallow them whole, its suffocating embrace closing in around them like a vice. With each passing moment, their sense of despair grew stronger, until it felt as though they were trapped in a nightmare from which they could never escape. But still, they pressed on, their determination to survive burning brighter than ever in the face of unspeakable horror. As they descended deeper into the depths of the abandoned factory, the brothers' senses were overwhelmed by the eerie stillness of the air. The only sound was the steady drip of water echoing in the darkness, a haunting reminder of the factory's forgotten past. With each step they took, their sense of unease grew stronger, as if the very walls of the factory were closing in around them. Shadows danced on the walls, casting strange shapes that seemed to taunt them with their twisted forms. Suddenly, they heard a noise, a faint whisper, barely audible above the hum of the machinery. The brothers froze in their tracks, their hearts pounding in their chests as they strained to listen. "What was that?" Michael whispered, his voice trembling with fear. Tom shook his head, his eyes wide with terror as he scanned the darkness for any sign of movement. Before they could react, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, gaunt figure with sunken eyes that seemed to glow with an otherworldly light. The brothers recoiled in horror, their minds struggling to comprehend the sight before them. With a cold smile, the figure stepped forward, its voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "Welcome to my domain, boys," it rasped, its words sending shivers down their spines. "You have entered a place of darkness, where the shadows themselves are alive with the echoes of the past." The brothers exchanged uneasy glances, their minds reeling with fear and confusion. Who was this mysterious figure, and what did it want with them? And more importantly, how could they escape its clutches and find their way back to safety? But before they could formulate a plan, the figure spoke again, its voice dripping with malice. "You have trespassed into a realm beyond your understanding," it hissed, its eyes gleaming with malevolence. "Now, you must face the consequences of your actions." With a wave of its hand, the figure disappeared into the darkness, leaving the brothers alone in the cold embrace of the abandoned factory. They stood there, paralyzed with fear, unsure of what to do next. But as they stood there, a sense of determination welled up inside them, a determination to survive, no matter the cost. With newfound resolve, they set out once again, their minds set on one thing and one thing only, finding a way out of the factory and back to the safety of home. With their hearts pounding in their chests, the brothers plunged deeper into the darkness of the abandoned factory, their senses on high alert for any sign of danger. Every shadow seemed to conceal a new horror, every sound sending shivers down their spines as they searched for a way out. As they navigated the maze-like corridors of the factory, fear gnawed at their insides like a hungry beast, threatening to consume them whole. But still, they pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to survive and find their way back to safety. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the darkness, a faint cry for help, barely audible above the hum of the machinery. The brothers froze in their tracks, their hearts pounding in their chests as they strained to listen. "Did you hear that?" Dan whispered, his voice trembling with fear. The others nodded, their eyes wide with terror as they scanned the darkness for any sign of movement. With a silent agreement, they set off in the direction of the cry, their footsteps echoing against the cold concrete floor as they raced deeper into the darkness. With each passing moment, their sense of urgency grew stronger, fueled by the knowledge that someone, perhaps their missing brother, was in desperate need of their help. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a sight that sent a chill down their spines, a figure huddled in the darkness, its eyes wide with fear as it stared back at them with an intensity that made their blood run cold. With a cry of relief, they rushed to the figure's side, their hands shaking as they reached out to help. "Are you okay?" Tom asked, his voice trembling with emotion. The figure nodded, its voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you," it said, its words filled with gratitude. "I thought I was going to be trapped here forever." With a sense of relief, the brothers helped the figure to its feet, their minds racing with questions. Who was this mysterious person, and what were they doing in the abandoned factory? And more importantly, could they help them find their way out? But before they could ask any more questions, a noise echoed through the darkness, a low, menacing growl that sent shivers down their spines. With a sinking feeling in the pit of their stomachs, they realized that they were not alone in the factory, and that whatever lurked in the shadows was hungry for blood. With no time to lose, they set off once again, their hearts pounding in their chests as they raced deeper into the darkness, their only thought to escape the horrors that lurked within the abandoned factory and find their way back to safety. As the brothers raced through the dark corridors of the abandoned factory, their hearts hammered in their chests and their breath came in ragged gasps. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew louder, a relentless reminder of the danger that lurked in the shadows. With each step they took, their sense of desperation grew stronger, fueled by the knowledge that their lives hung in the balance. Every shadow seemed to conceal a new terror. Every sound sent shivers down their spines as they fled deeper into the darkness. But no matter how fast they ran, the darkness seemed to swallow them whole, its suffocating embrace closing in around them like a vice. With each passing moment, their sense of hope dwindled, until it felt as though they were trapped in a nightmare from which they could never escape. Suddenly, they rounded a corner and came face to face with a dead end, a solid wall of concrete blocking their path. With a sinking feeling in the pit of their stomachs, they realized that they were trapped, with nowhere left to run. But before they could despair, Michael's sharp eyes caught sight of something, a small hatch set into the floor, its handle gleaming faintly in the dim light. With a cry of relief, he rushed forward and pulled open the hatch, revealing a narrow shaft leading down into the darkness below. "Quick, this way!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the cramped space as he lowered himself into the shaft. Without hesitation, the others followed suit, their hearts pounding in their chests as they descended into the unknown. As they crawled through the narrow shaft, their senses were overwhelmed by the oppressive darkness and the stale air that filled their lungs. But still, they pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to survive and find their way back to safety. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged into the open air, blinking in the harsh light of the moon. With a sense of relief, they scrambled to their feet and looked around, their eyes scanning the desolate landscape for any sign of danger. But as they stood there, catching their breath, a sense of unease settled over them like a dark cloud. For they knew that their ordeal was far from over, and that the true horrors that awaited them lay not in the darkness of the abandoned factory, but in the depths of their own hearts. As the brothers caught their breath in the moonlit night, their minds raced with thoughts of their missing brother left behind in the depths of the abandoned factory. Guilt gnawed at their insides like a relentless beast, reminding them of the promise they had made to never leave each other behind. But as they stood there, their resolve faltered in the face of the overwhelming danger that lurked within the factory's walls. The memory of the haunting presence that had pursued them through the darkness filled them with a sense of dread, and they knew that to return would mean certain death. With heavy hearts, they realized that they had no choice but to leave their brother behind and flee to safety. It was a decision that tore at their souls, but they knew that it was the only way to ensure their own survival. "We have to go back for him," Dan said, his voice choked with emotion. But Tom shook his head, his eyes filled with tears as he looked back at the factory looming in the distance. "We can't," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's too dangerous. We have to get help." With a heavy heart, they turned away from the factory and set off into the night, their minds filled with thoughts of their missing brother left behind in the darkness. It was a decision that would haunt them for the rest of their days, a painful reminder of the sacrifices they had made in the name of survival. As they walked, their minds raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. Would they be able to find help in time to save their brother? Or had they condemned him to a fate worse than death? But amidst their fear and uncertainty, one thing remained clear. They would never stop fighting, never stop searching until they had found a way to rescue their brother from the darkness that threatened to consume him. And so, with determination burning in their hearts, they set off into the night, their footsteps echoing in the silence as they vowed to never give up hope, no matter the cost. As the brothers ventured into the night, the weight of their decision hung heavy upon them like a shroud. With each step they took, the darkness seemed to close in around them, a tangible reminder of the horrors they had left behind in the abandoned factory. But still, they pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to find help and rescue their missing brother from the clutches of the darkness. Their minds raced with thoughts of what lay ahead, their hearts heavy with the burden of uncertainty. As they walked, the world around them seemed to blur into a haze of shadows and silence. The night was still and cold, the only sound the steady rhythm of their footsteps echoing in the darkness. But despite the overwhelming sense of fear and despair that threatened to consume them, they refused to give up hope, for they knew that as long as they remained together, they would find a way to overcome any obstacle that stood in their path. With each passing moment, their sense of determination grew stronger, fueled by the knowledge that their brother's life depended on their ability to find help. They walked for what felt like hours, their minds consumed by thoughts of their missing brother and the dangers that lurked in the darkness. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to break on the horizon, they saw a glimmer of hope, a small farmhouse nestled in the distance, its windows glowing with the warm light of a fire burning within. With a renewed sense of purpose, they quickened their pace, their hearts pounding in their chests as they approached the farmhouse. As they drew closer, they could see figures moving inside, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the fire. With a sense of relief, they called out for help, their voices carrying on the still morning air. And as the door swung open and the warm light of the fire washed over them, they knew that they had finally found sanctuary from the darkness that had threatened to consume them. But even as they stepped inside and collapsed into the welcoming embrace of safety, they knew that their journey was far from over, for their missing brother still lay trapped in the depths of the abandoned factory, his fate hanging in the balance as they struggled to find a way to rescue him from the darkness that threatened to consume him. And so, with heavy hearts and minds consumed by fear and uncertainty, they vowed to never give up hope, to never stop fighting until they had found a way to bring their brother home. As the two brothers emerged from the depths of the abandoned factory, their hearts heavy with grief and determination, they made their way back home to face their distraught parents. With each step, they felt the weight of their missing brother's absence pressing down on them, a constant reminder of the danger he faced alone in the darkness. When they finally reached home, they found their parents in a state of panic and shock, their faces pale and drawn with worry. The news of their missing brother had spread like wildfire, leaving them reeling with fear and uncertainty. But amidst the chaos, their father stepped forward with a solemn expression, his voice steady as he addressed his sons. "There is something you need to know," he said, his words heavy with meaning. Gathering around the dinner table, the family sat together in solemn silence as their father recounted a tale from long ago, a tale of a man who was always smiling, always coughing, and who had been a friend of the family for many years. He used to drive an ice cream truck and would often stop by to share treats with the neighborhood children, their father explained. But as time went on, rumors began to spread about missing children in the area, rumors that pointed to the smiling ice cream man. As the story unfolded, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, and the brothers realized with a shock that the mysterious figure they had encountered in the abandoned factory was none other than the smiling ice cream man of their childhood memories. Their father's words hung heavy in the air as they sat in stunned silence, the weight of the truth sinking in with each passing moment. And then, as if by some twist of fate, their gaze fell upon an old photo album gathering dust on the shelf, a relic of their childhood days. Opening the album, they flipped through the pages until they came upon a familiar image, a group photo taken at their preschool, with a smiling ice cream man standing in the background, his face frozen in a perpetual grin. With a sense of determination burning in their hearts, the two brothers made a solemn vow to return to the abandoned factory and rescue their missing brother from the clutches of the smiling ice cream man. And as they prepared to embark on their perilous journey once again, they knew that they would stop at nothing to bring him home.